Courtside Club, just when we thought this Sheryl Swoopes drama was going to blow over.
What? You didn't know Sheryl Swoopes was throwing shade at Caitlin Clark? Where have you been? Because she'd been talking negatively about Clark for well over a year now, but now Swoopes' trash talking has had her kicked out of her job as a commentator. Yes, you heard that right. Swoopes went overboard with her attitude that she was replaced on the commentary for the Dallas Wings home game against the Indiana Fever. In her place, another WNBA icon, Nancy Lieberman, stepped in and Caitlin did not disappoint.
From way downtown. Clark from way downtown. So the Indiana Fever will go over 500. 17-16 extend their win streak to 4. Dallas will have their 3-game win streak.
She put up 28 points, 12 assists, and 5 three-pointers, while her teammate Kelsey Mitchell added 36 points and 5 threes, helping the Fever secure a dominant win. So why was Sheryl Swoopes removed from the broadcast? And what impact has her ongoing feud with Clark had on the WNBA? Let's dive into the details and uncover the full story. So if you're new to the WNBA, you might be wondering, who is Sheryl Swoopes? No matter what we say about her in the rest of the clip, we do have to acknowledge that she's an WNBA legend and one of the best female ball players of all time. She's a 6-time All-Star, 3-time Defensive Player of the Year, 2-time scoring champion, 4-time WNBA champion, and a 3-time Olympic gold medalist. For all of these accolades, she's been inducted into the Naismith Basketball Hall of Fame, deservingly so. After her playing career was over, she began a career in broadcasting.
Sheryl Swoopes is a big name in WNBA media. She has her own podcast where she talks about all things WNBA except Caitlin Clark. And she also does commentary for the Dallas Wings games. And she has pretty much covered every single home game for the Dallas Wings except this last game.
Swoopes used not only her own platform, but official WNBA platforms as well to diminish Caitlin Clark's play on the court and contribution to the popularity of the league. She has done it on numerous occasions and sparked a lot of controversy.
If she wanted to kill the narrative that she's not hating on Caitlin Clark, she doesn't have any animosity towards her, she could literally just say that in a tweet. I have no animosity.
For years, Swoopes provided commentary for the Dallas Wings games, but when the Wings recently faced off against the Indiana Fever, it was Nancy Lieberman, another WNBA legend, who filled in for her. This sparked speculation, with Swoopes kicked out of her role because of her public stance against Clark.
For Dallas in Dallas matchup with Indiana, a lot of people were anticipating, hey, what was she going to say? How was she going to handle it? And she just didn't show up to the game whatsoever. She was replaced by some.
The game, featuring Clark's incredible 28-point performance, was a showcase of the rookie's talent, and Lieberman made sure to acknowledge that. She praised Clark throughout the broadcast, even mentioning that Clark should be celebrated, not tolerated, a statement that went viral on social media and led many to believe it was a veiled dig at Swoopes. To add fuel to the fire, Swoopes' tension with figures like Stephen A. Smith, who publicly called her out for her behavior, only deepened the controversy. But what did Sheryl Swoopes say exactly about Caitlin Clark?
And Sheryl Swoopes seemingly disliking Caitlin Clark hasn't just happened in the past couple months. This actually dates way back to when Caitlin Clark beat the NCAA scoring record for both the men.
It all started when Caitlin Clark broke the record for the most points in an NCAA tournament previously held by Sheryl Swoopes.
I set the record in 5 games, right?
Yeah.
Because back then, we had a first-round bye. So we didn't get to play, I didn't get that 6th game. So I set the record in 5 games.
Yeah.
So to me, yes, she broke the record, but she did it in 6 games.
It took her extra game.
Well, I'm just saying.
You can say that.
No, listen. If I have 6 games,
The record's different.
well, I'm gonna have another 30 to the 177,
You were
Jordan.
averaging, what was it, 34?
30, yeah.
34.
30 something. 30 something. How about that? I mean, we're having a good time. We're having fun. But I don't really care what the record is, who has the record. Anybody that can put up back-to-back 40-point games.
At this point, Swoopes didn't start hating. Yes, she did point out that it took Caitlin an extra game to break her record, but she also praised her and called her a bowler. This was a really appropriate response to a young star, but things went downhill from here. Then there was the situation where she was a guest on Gil's Arena and told 3 lies, seemingly trying to diminish her college accomplishments.
So if Kelsey Plum set that record in 4 years, well, Caitlin should have broke that record in 4 years. But because there's a COVID year and then there's another year, you know what I mean? So she's already had an extra year to break that record. So is it truly a broken?
First, she told that Caitlin, who became the best scorer in NCAA history just recently, had an extra year to do so. She insinuated that this was the only reason why she had the most points in college hoops history. Well, Clark actually didn't have an extra year. But she didn't stop there.
Caitlin Clark right now probably takes about 40 shots a game.
Here we go.
I know you like that.
While Swoops didn't say the exact number of shots Clark was taking, she insinuated that her entire college team is built around her, and that she takes a vast majority of shots on the team. Not only was she wrong, but she was really wrong. All she needed to do is Google Caitlin Clark college stats, and she could have seen that Caitlin only took around 20 shots per game. Of course, that's still a lot of shots, however, she was hitting at great percentages, and there's a huge difference between 20 and 40 shots a game. Sheryl also somehow thought that Caitlin was 25 years old. No one's sure why she said this.
What are you doing here?
But let's also talk about how much more experience that gives you over other players coming in, right? So people say, dang, like he or she's killing them. But you have a 25-year-old playing against a 20-year-old. Mm-hmm. Like, you should be killing them. Yeah. Because you've been doing it a lot longer than...
Again, a simple Google search would show you that Caitlin Clark was born in 2002. That would make her 22 years old at the time Sheryl was talking about her. Plus, keep in mind that she was talking about Clark's performance from the previous year. When Clark was 21 years old, it didn't take a lot of time for people to start noticing that the things Swoops was talking about weren't true at all. Things got a little bit funny when Iowa's official Twitter profile responded to Swoops, fact-checking her statements. If you're not aware, Caitlin Clark played 4 years of college basketball at Iowa.
But there was some fun being had from none other than Iowa Women's Hoops' Twitter handle. And they would write, allow us to introduce you to Caitlin Clark 22 on Twitter. Age, 22. Grade, true senior, 4th year. Games played, 123 points, 3,462 assists, 980 field goal attempts per game, 19.7 in her collegiate career.
Don't get us wrong, we don't have a problem with older players criticizing the new generation. However, when the older players start criticizing newer ones based on false information, the critique turns into hate. A lot of people would agree with this statement. Some serious critics took offense to what Swoops said, saying that a player and analyst of her caliber saying that
Steve Del Vecchio. Clark has had a major impact on women's college basketball, and attendance numbers are just one example of that. Swoops doesn't have to think Clark is the best player of all time, but the 6-time WNBA All-Star should be embarrassed by how unprepared she sounded in the interview.
Sheryl Swoopes was recently on Gil's Arena and made some comments that I find to be borderline detestable. If you're going to come on someone's podcast, you should at least be prepared because you knew you were going to say this. You knew you wanted to. You knew you wanted to say this because obviously they have you there to talk about women's basketball, right? Yeah. Makes sense. As a female who was in the Hall of Fame and arguably one of the greatest women's basketball players of all time, because Sheryl Swoopes was a star, would be praising these young women, these talents that are coming out of college. And you're going to sit here on a podcast like Gil's Arena, which has 500,000 subscribers, and spread misinformation that you know is not true.
You'd probably think that once she saw Caitlin play, all of the hating would stop. But no, Sheryl Swoopes actually doubled down her hateful rhetoric once Caitlin got into the league. Admittedly, she didn't go so hard in the beginning. She was mostly talking about what's being expected of Caitlin and how it would be hard to live up to those expectations.
Clark come into the WNBA and do what she's doing right now. Immediately, absolutely not. How she can get her teammates to play with her. You know what I mean? Because at Iowa, she did everything. Mm-hmm. You know, however many shots you want to take, whatever you want to do with the ball, you can do. It's just a different ball game. And you have some players like an Aaliyah Boston, an Alyssa Smith, a Kelsey Mitchell, like they got to have a rock. When you put these expectations on these young women in college to go to the next level and be immediately dominant, and when that doesn't happen, then people come back and say, oh, she was a bust, she was a flop, she wasn't that good. Just let them do what they're doing in college, enjoy what they're doing in college, and let them become stars in the
This is something probably everyone could agree with Swoops on. It was expected that Caitlin Clark would come into the league and start dominating right away. Only a handful of players in sports history like Magic Johnson, Michael Jordan, Lisa Leslie, Candace Parker, and LeBron James have managed to do such a thing. Keep in mind that all of these people are generational talents that changed the league completely. Caitlin did start her season slowly. She had trouble adjusting to the physicality in her team. The Fever had a hard schedule playing some of the strongest teams in the league in the first month, but after she got the ball rolling, she never looked back. She's now having one of the best rookie seasons in history, and Swoops won't acknowledge it.
I don't know if Chicago's in the playoffs right now without Angel. Is Indiana, excuse me, is Indiana in the playoffs right now without Caitlin? I don't
No. Last year, no.
Caitlin has done, I think, exactly what was expected of her with Indiana, right? The reason why they drafted her, what the expectations were. And I think she's done just that.
In another podcast where Jordan, the co-host of Swoops' podcast, was praising the Indiana Fever, Swoops took part in the conversation by showering Indiana players with praise. All Indiana players except Caitlin Clark.
I do want to say this because we talked about the Olympic break, who it could help, who it could hurt.
Mm-hmm.
And I've seen the complete opposite with two teams, the 7th and 8th place team. I think the Olympic break really helped Indiana.
Absolutely.
Like they look like they've spent time, whether they took time off or not, but they worked on stuff. I'm going to say shout out to Lexi Hull. I'm a big Lexi Hull fan. Watch her in AU. Lexi Hull shot the leather off the ball in their game against Seattle. Kelsey Mitchell is just stroking. She is just shooting the basketball. Aaliyah Boston, almost a triple-double. I know we're talking about teams where they can move and things changing, but if Indiana continues to play the way they're playing like this, they too are going to move up.
Here, Swoops didn't throw shade directly at Clark, but by ignoring her completely, she basically said that the rest of the players on her team mattered more than her. It's kind of strange to praise a team and not say a word about their best scorer and playmaker. It seems like she was capital H hating on Caitlin Clark.
Yet I'm on the air the other day, and I'm talking about the Indiana Fever, and I had to get on, somebody we both have incredible respect for in Sheryl Swoopes. You're a champion on every level, one of the greatest players in WNBA history. Because I said, how do you mention the Indiana Fever and all of these other players, and you don't mention Caitlin Clark, and then all of a sudden she gets on me and calls me a coward and all of.
It's really hard to understand how could anyone have a problem with Caitlin, especially anyone who's invested in the WNBA. Her list of accomplishments is stunning. On the court, Caitlin is breaking records every game, and her team is packing arena.
She's the second leading scorer at 23.4 points per game over the last 12 games. The Indiana Fever owned the WNBA record for most consecutive games under 500, by the way, with 189 until recently, of course, the other day. Now the team is setting WNBA attendance records with over 500,000 fans over their first 33 games this season. Some have compared Caitlin Clark to Tiger Woods and how she's revolutionized fan engagement in women's basketball. Overall attendance, in case you missed it, is up by 20%, breaking TV viewership ratings and merchandise sales. Either way you slice it, it's clear that we're witnessing a golden era in the sport. Caitlin Clark, what'd I tell y'all?
The biggest thing about Caitlin is, not only is she an amazing talent, but she's also marketable. She's pretty similar to Steph Curry. She plays fast, shoots long threes, and can handle the ball like no one's business. But there's also likability and relatability. Kids, especially little girls, want to play like her. The quality of the league has gone up. The talent is better than ever before. We're not just talking about single player, we're talking about entire teams. But Caitlin Clark stands out.
There's a whole bunch of people that's balling. How about Kelsey Mitchell, her teammate, who is just flat out balling? You see what the Ace is doing, right? See, Kelsey, you just see this. Plum and the rest of the crew in Las Vegas can't ignore them. I'm looking at the New York Liberty. I'm looking at the Minnesota Lynx. I'm looking at the Connecticut Sun. I'm looking at Seattle. I'm looking at all of these teams. But they ain't the story. Look, we appreciate what they bring to the table, and we appreciate their greatness, and we appreciate what they're giving the fans. But we just have to understand that when a transformational figure enters the fray, You got to pause and then isolate and compartmentalize and give them the love that they're due. And in this case, it belongs to Caitlin Clark.
In her first season, Clark became the first rookie in WNBA history to record multiple triple-doubles. Her ability to contribute across the board, scoring, assisting, and rebounding, makes her one of the most versatile and dynamic players in the league. Her historic second triple-double came in a 9-3-8-6 victory over the Los Angeles Sparks, where she posted 24 points, 10 assists, and 10 rebounds.
Hold on to win against the Sparks. 14 seconds left. Caitlin Clark, the rebound. Why are we showing that to you? Because that was her 10th rebound to go along with 10 dimes and 24 points for her second career triple-double as the Fever win 93-86. And they are rolling here in the second half of the year.
This feat put her in the elite company of only 5 other WNBA players who have ever achieved multiple triple-doubles in a season, a rare accomplishment even for veteran players. Sheryl Swoopes campaigned heavily for Angel Reese to be the Rookie of the Year. Angel Reese had an amazing rookie season, but when you compare everything Caitlin Clark has managed to do, you can clearly see that she's running away with the Rookie of the Year award by a large margin.
Take a look at the absurd amount of actual records Caitlin Clark has broken since she's joined the WNBA, and it's pretty jaw-dropping. And in fact, somebody put together a comparison between those records and the ones Angel Reese has broken. And, well, let's just say it's sort of embarrassing that these two were even compared and contrasted for the Rookie of the Year. It's baffling. So, this is absurd, folks. And you might be like, what the hell is this list, Rhodes? This is the records that Caitlin Clark has broken this year. Either rookie records or actual WNBA records, period. It's nuts. It's absurd.
WNBA has been struggling to find an audience for nearly 2 decades at this point. However, thanks to the skill level and exciting performances of new players, the league has seen a surge in popularity like never before, and leading the way is Caitlin Clark.
We know about Asia Wilson, okay? Let's get that out the way. 2-time MVP of the Las Vegas Aces, the best player in the world right now. She's about to set a single-season points-per-game scoring record, averaging 27.5 points, y'all. Surpassing Diana Taurasi's 25.3 points per game, set back in 2006. That's one person. The others, you know the names. Angel Reese, the Chicago Sky forward, just set the league record for the most rebounds in a season, surpassing the mark set by Sylvia Fowles in 2018. Reese broke the record in just 32 games, so give her her love and support. And last but not least is, of course, Caitlin Clark, who just led the Indiana Fever to an above 500 record for the first time in 5 years.
Clark's style of play has brought a more dynamic, fast-paced brand of basketball to the league. Compared to some of the more traditional, half-court sets that have dominated the WNBA for years, Clark's run-and-gun style, reminiscent of the Golden State Warriors, has injected a fresh energy into the game. One of the most significant effects Clark has had on the league is the growth in viewership and fan engagement. Since Clark joined the WNBA, there's been an 80% increase in viewership, a staggering number that demonstrates how much of a draw she has become. But still, people Sheryl Swoopes seemingly are of jealousy and pettiness are giving Clark a hard time and are not willing to admit how good she is for the league.
This girl is incredible. What she did in college for women's basketball, what she's doing in the WNBA.
She turned the Fever, were 1-8. They have a winning record now.
But the number of attention, eyeballs, she's brought to college and the pros, and for these women to have this petty jealousness, you say to yourself, damn, what is going on here?
Whether it's filling arenas or bringing in massive television audiences, Clark has been instrumental in boosting the league's popularity. Her games consistently draw huge crowds, and merchandise with her name on it, especially her favorite jersey, has been flying off the shelves. As one of the most prominent young stars, Clark has helped make a case for higher pay and better financial opportunities for WNBA players in the future. Caitlin Clark's rise also signals a changing of the guard in the WNBA. The league, long dominated by veteran stars, is now in the hands of younger players like Clark, whose influence will help shape the future of women's basketball. As her career continues, it's clear that her presence will leave a lasting legacy, both in how the game is played and in how it's perceived by the public.